The shadow of betrayal. Hear the story of the passion of our Lord and stand with him beneath the shadows of betrayal and desertion. In the evening, he sat down with the 12 disciples, and during supper he said, "I tell you this, one of you will betray me." In great distress, they exclaimed one after the other, "Can you mean me, Lord?" He answered, "One who has dipped his hand into this bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man is going the way appointed for him in the Scriptures. But alas, for that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for that man if he'd never been born." And then Jesus said to them, "Tonight you will all fall from your faith on my account. For it stands written, I will strike the shepherd down, and the sheep of his flock will be scattered. But after I am raised again, I will go on before you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Everyone else may fall away on your account, but I never will." Jesus said to him, "I tell you, tonight before the cock crows, you will disown me 3 times. Peter said, "Even if I must die with you, I will never disown you." And all the disciples said the same. We extinguished the first candle to remind us of the betrayal. The shadow of inner agony. Hear the story of Christ's agony in the garden. Then he went out and made his way as usual to the Mount of Olives, accompanied by his disciples. When he reached the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may be spared the hour of testing." He himself withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt down, and began to pray. "Father, if it be thy will, take this cup away from me. Yet not my will, but thine be done." And now there appeared to him an angel from heaven, bringing him strength, and in anguish of spirit he prayed the more urgently, and his sweat was like clots of blood falling to the ground. We extinguish the second candle to remind us of Christ's agony. The shadow of loneliness. Mark gives us a glimpse of the unshared vigil of our Lord. Those who prepare to die are often left alone. And when they reached the place called Gethsemane, he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took Peter and James and John with him. Horror and dismay came over him. And he said to them, "My heart is ready to break with grief. Stop here and stay awake." Then he went forward a little, threw himself on the ground, and prayed that if it were possible, this hour might pass him by. "Abba, Father," he said, "all things are possible to thee. Take this cup away from me, yet not what I will, but what thou wilt." He came back and he found them asleep. And he said to Peter, "Asleep, Simon? Were you not able to stay awake just for 1 hour? Stay awake, all of you, and pray that you may be spared the test. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." We extinguish the third candle to remind us of loneliness. The shadow of desertion. Jesus was alone when arrested. His friends, the ones who loved him and swore to follow him, they flee. He is left alone again. And while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared. And with him was a great crowd armed with swords and cudgels, sent by the chief priests and the elders of the nation. The traitor gave them this sign: "The one I kiss, he is your man. Seize him." And stepping forward at once, he said, "Hail, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you are here to do." They then came forward and seized Jesus and held him fast. At the same time, Jesus spoke to the crowd. "Do you take me for a bandit, that you've come out with swords and cudgels to arrest me? Day after day I sat teaching in the temple, and you didn't lay hands on me. But this has all happened to fulfill what the prophets wrote." Then the disciples, every one of them, deserted him and ran away. We extinguish the fourth candle to remind us of desertion. The shadow of accusation. Faced with the hostility of his accusers, Jesus' calmness infuriates the religious authorities, who then accuse him of blasphemy. Jesus was led off under arrest to the house of Caiaphas the high priest, where the lawyers and the elders were assembled. Peter followed him at a distance until he came to the high priest's courtyard. And going in, he sat down there amongst the attendants, meaning to see the end of it all. The chief priests and the whole council tried to find some allegation against Jesus on which a death sentence could be based, but they failed to find one, though many came forward with false evidence. Finally, 2 men alleged that he had said, "I can pull down the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." At this, the high priest rose and said to him, "Have you no answer to the charge that these witnesses bring against you?" But Jesus kept silent. The high priest then said, "By the living God, I charge you to tell us, are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" Jesus replied, "The words are yours, but I tell you this, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of God and coming on the clouds of heaven." At these words, the high priest tore his robes and exclaimed, "Blasphemy! Need we call any further witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What is your opinion?" "He is guilty," they shouted. "He should die." And then they spat in his face and struck him with their fists. And others said, as they beat him, "Now, Messiah, if you are a prophet, tell us who hits you." We extinguish the 5th candle to remind us of accusation. The shadow of mockery. The Prince of Peace is treated like the Prince of Fools and is prepared to die. Pilate's soldiers then took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, where they collected the whole company around him. They stripped him and dressed him in a scarlet mantle, and plaiting a crown of thorns, they placed it on his head, with a cane in his right hand. Falling onto their knees before him, they jeered at him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and used the cane to beat him about the head. When they had finished their mockery, they took off the mantle and dressed him in his own clothes. We extinguish the sixth candle to remind us of mockery. The shadow of the cross and the death of Jesus. As they led him away to execution, they seized upon a man called Simon from Cyrene. On his way in from the country, they put the cross on his back and made him walk behind Jesus carrying it. Great numbers of people followed, many women among them, who mourned and lamented over him. Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. No, weep for yourselves and your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Happy are the barren, the wombs that never bore a child, the breast that never fed one.' Then they will start saying to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if these things are done when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" There were two others with him, criminals, who were being led away to execution. And when they reached the place called the Skull, they crucified him there. And the criminals with him, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing." By now, it was about midday, and darkness fell over the whole land, which lasted until 3 p.m. The sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus gave a loud cry and said, "Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit." And with these words, he died. The centurion saw it all and gave praise to God. "Beyond all doubt," he said, "this man was innocent." We extinguish the seventh candle to remind us of the cross and death. Hail, true flesh, born of Mary, who has truly suffered, broken on the cross, from whose pierced side flowed water and blood, be for us a taste of the trial of death.